National Guard unless we're requested by a governor. If a governor or a mayor is a Democrat, and then, like in Portland, we call them constantly. I just spoke to the governor yesterday because we're giving them relief on the fires. We're giving them an emergency declaration. I said, Governor, let us go in and we'll clean up Portland so fast. In a half an hour, it'll be all right. And she's just torn by it. I don't understand the thinking, but they're torn by it.
Donald Trump admitting that he is a criminal. You heard it right there. He's admitting that he violated the law. It doesn't get much clearer than that, folks, now, does it? You have the clowns in Donald Trump's regime like J.D. Vance making posts like this. This moment calls for decisive leadership. The president will not tolerate rioting and violence. And it's a repost of Donald Trump saying, a once great American city, Los Angeles, has been invaded and occupied by illegal aliens. And it goes on to say, we need to take all such necessary measures to liberate Los Angeles from the migrant invasion and put down these migrant riots. As Governor Gavin Newsom says, decisive leadership. You didn't even know when your own National Guard was deployed on the ground. Stop fanning the flames, for real. Stop fanning the flames. Now, someone who's actually sacrificed for our country in various capacities, as a pilot, as an astronaut, as a senator, Senator Mark Kelly. Here's his take on this all. First, Trump arrested a mayor, a member of Congress, and a labor leader. Now he's sending in the National Guard against the advice of local leaders when police are best equipped to ensure safety and prevent violence. How'd we get here? Trump decided to prioritize ripping apart families and communities instead of focusing on dangerous criminals. This isn't law and order. This isn't making our country safer or fixing our border. And it isn't leadership. And to that point, Tom Homan, Trump's border czar, someone who's not confirmed by the Senate, just a bumbling, mumbling fool. Here he is on MSNBC and he's asked, does everyone who has been arrested by ICE have a criminal record? And he goes, absolutely not. We're going after everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a criminal or not. Here it is. He says it in his own words. Play this clip.
Is everyone that has been arrested by ICE agents have a criminal record like those you've described?
Absolutely not. And I said from day one, January 20th, we will prioritize public safety threats and national security threats. However, we will enforce law. I may prioritize my family life over my work. Doesn't mean I ignore my work. We're going to force the immigration law. We've been honest about that from day one, especially in sanctuary cities. When we can't get the bad guy in the safety and security of a jail, they release him to the street. Well, we got to go to the street and find them. And when we find them, many times they're with others. Others that are in the United States illegally may not be a criminal target, but guess what? If ICE is there, arresting that bad guy, and other aliens are there, we're going to arrest them. That's what sanctuary cities get. They put us in the neighborhood, they force us in the neighborhood. This is what happens.
Are you looking for something simple and delicious to add to your wellness routine? I used to rely on regular honey for my breakfast tea and even salad dressings. But then I found Manacora, and let me tell you, it puts all other honey to shame. Manacora honey is rich, creamy, and the most delicious honey I've ever had. The best part, it's ethically produced by master beekeepers in the remote forests of New Zealand. These bees collect nectar from the Manuka tea tree, which is packed with bioactives, giving Manacora 3 times more antioxidants and prebiotics than your average honey. Each morning, I start my day with a heaped teaspoon of Manacora, letting the creamy texture melt in my mouth and coat my throat. And it's not just a treat, it's packed with powerful nutrients to support my immunity and gut health. And here's something that sets Manacora apart. It contains a special antibacterial compound called MGO, which comes from the Manuka tea tree. Manacora tests every harvest for MGO, and you can see the results yourself through their QR system. It's a honey with superpowers. Whether you're adding it to your food or enjoying it straight off the spoon, it's a game changer. Now it's easier than ever to try Manacora honey. Just head to manacora.com/Midas, that's MEIDAS, to get $25 off the starter kit, which includes an MGO 850 plus Manuka honey jar, 5 honey travel sticks, a wooden spoon, and a guidebook. That's manacora.com/Midas for $25 off your starter kit. Start your mornings with Manacora. You'll never go back to ordinary honey.
Now, I'd like to read for you a statement by one of the leaders of one of the ex-National Guard leaders, someone who is very well respected in the National Guard. His name is Major General Randy Manner, and he criticizes Trump sending the National Guard to LA in a statement to Fox. And Fox published this statement. Here's what he says. The president's federal deployment of the National Guard over the official wishes of a governor is bad for all Americans concerned about freedom of speech and states' rights. The governor has the authority and ability to respond to the civil disturbances with law enforcement capabilities within his state, augmented as necessary by requesting law enforcement assistance from other governors. There are over 1 million badged and trained members of law enforcement in this country for the governors to ask for help if he needs it. While this is presently a legal order, it tramples the governor's rights and obligations to protect his people. This is an inappropriate use of the National Guard and is not warranted. One of the former top leaders of the National Guard, and all he's saying there, to be clear, is it's presently a legal order because a court has not struck it down yet. Although, as I have said before, when you look through the statute, or if you listen to Donald Trump's own words, it is an unlawful order. That's what Donald Trump said in 2020. I think one of the things that is important to note as well, while all of this is going on, is we can't forget about the budget bill. We can't forget about the disastrous budget bill that will kick 15 million Americans off of health care, that will take away supplemental nutrition assistance program for people, that will lead to more people becoming unhoused because it's taking away rental assistance and Section 8 housing. It's an attack on women's reproductive rights. But if you wanted to purchase a silencer for a gun, the budget bill says that you don't have to go through really any regulatory process anymore. Silencers, tanning beds got a lot of benefits. And of course, the billionaires. Guns, billionaires, silencers, billionaires, and tanning beds. Billionaires are going to get trillions in tax cuts, and it's going to increase the deficit by $5 trillion. Here's what Democratic Senator Murphy had to say about this all.
It can also be true that everything that's happened in the last 7 days between the fight with Elon Musk and now the deployment of the National Guard is probably also a distraction from the main story, which is that right now Donald Trump is trying to pass probably the most unpopular piece of legislation that he will attempt to move through Congress in his first term. He's going to throw 15 million people off their health care in order to fund a massive tax cut for the wealthy. It's going to add $2 trillion to our deficit. We're probably going to head into a recession. And so I do also think he's probably doing everything he can to try to get the entire political world to be talking about anything other than a piece of legislation that's going to fundamentally change this country. So, yeah, we have to point out the danger of what he's proposing to do in Los Angeles while also keeping our eye on the ball, which is a bill that's going to transform our economy and ruin a lot of lives.
Should also be noted that nobody wants to work for Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. Everybody's turning down job offers because they think he's utterly incompetent, which he is. Another note that I want to share with you. While Donald Trump promised that there was a trade deal with the UK, a month later, the duties with the UK, the levies, the tariffs remain in place. There's no clear timeline when they're going to lift. We're a month after the, quote, historic deal between the two sides, and there's no clear timeline for when this will actually become a deal. But if you've been watching the Midas Touch Network, what have I been saying from day one? It was never a deal. It was a memorandum of understanding that literally says on it, this is not a binding deal. It was never a deal. Also, mergers and acquisition activity are approaching their lowest levels in decades, meaning businesses are not merging or acquiring. They're in kind of a frozen standstill mode. Remember Donald Trump saying, drill, baby, drill? Well, U.S. oil rigs are increasingly going offline. The Baker Hughes U.S. crude oil rig count has dropped to the lowest since 2021. So actually the oil industry is suffering. I'm not sure I'm all that upset. Well, I want American businesses to do well. I think that there should be diversified energy. I'll just leave it at that. But Donald Trump made one promise, and he did not meet that promise.